Okay, Michelle, thank you so much for joining me today. Finally, we get to sit down and chat.
Yes.
Yeah, we've been trying for a while, and it's like, you know how it is with the time zones and the time changes, and you work during the day and all this. So finally, we found a time. So that's good. So tell me, how was the writing process for you? What was that like?
It was a fun process. I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to write about until I started writing. And then once I started writing, I found that there was so much information I wanted to include. So right now, I'm still trying to cut down the words at the moment, but there's a lot of really great information. And yeah, I'm just really excited to be a part of this. So thank you.
That's wonderful. It is always like that. We tend to write a lot, and then in the editing process, when we bring it down, it's like, I don't know what to cut out. Should I say this? Should I say that? Everything suddenly feels important. And you really need to like prioritize and be like, okay, I really need to say this. And, maybe there's another time and place for me to say something else. So it helps you to really zone in and be like laser focused on what is the core message and how can I get it there with as minimal words as possible. And that's kind of challenging.
Yeah, it absolutely is. This is my first experience with something like that. So it's been a good learning experience as well.
That's good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you did say that you plan on writing books of your own in the future. So this is a good stepping stone. It's a good kind of taster to see what you're going to get yourself into. And luckily, when you write your own book, you don't have like a word limit that you need to consider. You can just write freely until you feel done and complete and be like, well, my book is 1 million words. So what? You know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. In writing this chapter, it helped me to understand that there's just so much more information I want to get out there and into the world. So it's inspired me to start working on writing my own book. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, I mean, that's my job. I love helping people get to the point where they like this needs to be shared. I have so much information I'm sitting on. I've got so many life experiences or whatever it may be that need to be shared that can help someone, that can uplift someone, that can empower someone. And we really do have to share because at the end of the day, something that I've really learned is that you don't really realize how your stories impact someone else
Mhm.
until way down the line. The first book I ever did in a group setting like we're doing with our book now was, I don't know, I think in 2023. And I'm still getting people email me from that book and saying, I read about so and so near death experience, or this was mentioned in your book and it really helped me to deal with especially grief, death, dealing with losing loved ones, dealing with
Yeah.
the fear of death. That's a big one. A lot of people have that fear of death and dying. Some of them, it's more like just the physicality of it, like they're afraid of the actual death event. Others obviously are afraid of like the afterlife. They have a lot of fear-based beliefs. They grew up with fear-based belief systems, and so they're afraid to even age because of that. Because they feel like, the more I age, the closer I am to death, or whatever it may be. I don't know. So it really helps a lot of people still. And that's what makes me feel good about the work that we do together, all of us. I know that it's going to have an impact for a long time. But I'm interested in hearing, what did you share in your chapter?
Yeah, so I shared a few different things. I talk a very brief amount about like where we all came from and what we are, right? So we are all sparklets of God or pieces of God, kind of like drops in the ocean, right? And so I talk a little bit about that, and then I go into just some of the experiences. I feel like a lot of people these days are caught in this like victim mode where they're saying, this happened to me, and because of that, I'm struggling and I'm in pain and I'm suffering and I'm dealing with this emotional issue and whatnot. And a lot of these are things that the soul chooses, and they are looking at it from like a whole big picture. Us in human body are looking at it at a very detailed, like pinpointed, like point of view. We don't see like the whole picture. We don't see the whole like soul's journey from like the beginning. We don't see what the purpose of this whole lifetime, because to us, this lifetime like is a long time. It's all we know. We don't remember what happened before this life or what's going to happen after that and whatnot. And so um, like I wanted to help people understand why the soul might choose to experience certain things and how those experiences help not only the soul evolve and become stronger and wiser, but also how it might help the soul accomplish whatever it is that they wanted to accomplish in that lifetime. So I give real examples that have either come from my life or other people's sessions, like when I've regressed them, and kind of I go over into those details, and then after explaining those examples, then I go into what happens like after like a lifetime on Earth, right? After you cross over and what happens during that time frame. I debunk a few things like the whole idea of hell, because I think that's important. I think there's a lot of fear about that, and fear of being punished or being judged, or um, even like certain things with like karma. And so like I wanted to clear that up so that people can let go of that fear, because that's very, very important right now, is to let go of fear. And then I just kind of go into what might happen after that, and the life review process. And then even just a few little things about like our guides communicating with us and the different ways that they can communicate and what those, things mean as well. And then the last part of it is just a channeled message and inspiration to others on how, they should live their life, just simple things like, forgiveness and loving yourself and being kind to yourself, and, taking time to be in nature and so forth.
That is so beautiful. That is actually the entire kind of like overview of what the whole book is about, right? The soul's journey.
Yeah.
And you debunk a lot of the things that I had questions about in the beginning when I was on my journey and just learning about these things. And I still have questions till this day, about hell and about, what is all of that about? Because in some near death experiences, you hear that it doesn't exist. And then in some, you hear that it does exist. And I always refer back to near death experiences because for me, that is kind of like the closest information you're going to get to dying. And then someone comes back and be like, oh my goodness, I saw this, But it's very much the same with the regressions as I'm learning. Not only the QHHT sessions that you guys do, but also the past life regressions and the life between life regressions. They're very much similar to having an NDE without actually having the death event. So that is new to me. That's super exciting. I cannot wait to read what you've written because I want to read more about and learn more about, obviously the health stuff, the death stuff, how to add more information to my bank of knowledge so that I can get a new, deeper perspective. Um, One of the questions that always comes up about reincarnation, and you mentioned it, and karma, is that they are linked. What is your perspective on that? Like, do you think reincarnation and karma work together, or do you think they're completely separate? Do you think that there is somehow a link between them, but it's not what we think it is? What do you think?
Yeah, so I studied under a few different regressionists, but one of the people that I studied under was Dolores Cannon, and I wasn't blessed enough to learn from her live, but I have learned from a lot of her books and videos. And so her perspective on things is that um, like they are linked in a sense, like what you might do in another life can come in and affect and influence like this current life or a life that you might experience as a future. Like there is no, time isn't linear, but in our perspective, it is. Um, and so, like for example, if let's say there was infidelity, like let's say you and I decided to be married and, like in a life together, and we, wanted to grow and learn and experience certain things in that life. But somewhere along the way, because this is a planet of free choice and free will, I decide to be like to go cheat on you or something, right? And that leaves you not feeling good, and that wasn't part of our plan or our agreement. That could generate karma into another life where our roles might reverse, and then you might decide to cheat on me. Like, so that could happen. And it's not necessarily as a sense of like punishment, it's more like information. So, like, if I experience like this, like cheating, I might not understand like your point of view or what you might be feeling and going through. And the way that I can understand that is only by putting myself in your shoes, physically and literally, in another life. So that is like one of the ways that karma might play out. It might be in the sense of like even war, like as a soldier, like I might experience like what it's like to kill, and have that experience. And then in another life, I might be someone who experiences like a village where my village gets burned down and I get killed, from war. So that might be something that the soul chooses to experience. So just fully understand like different angles and like how those all tie in and the different perspectives. So it's more about like information and understanding. But I think what like has happened over, I guess, hundreds of thousands of years is um, there's this idea that there are a lot of souls here right now that might be trapped on Earth because they're on this like karmic wheel where it's like, oh, well, I didn't do as good as I should have. Let me try again and do better. And then like it doesn't still like play out the way it should. And then they're kind of stuck. Or, they come to incarnate on Earth to learn a specific lesson and they just don't get there. Like even in my like regressions, like I have, talked to the higher self for somebody and I've asked like what they're meant to learn in this life, what their purpose is, and they will say, "Oh yeah, they're trying to learn this purpose, and this is like her third time trying to do it." And not that there is a right or wrong. We have infinite lives. We don't ever cease to exist, and this is just a costume, that we have. So, like we can learn quickly, or we can, you know, have a more of a slower process, and there's no right or wrong about that. But to my understanding is this is a specific, very special time on Earth right now where we're trying to let go of karma, let go of things that aren't working, certain soul contracts and whatnot, so that we can all like progress as like souls.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Such a detailed explanation. But you said something so interesting just a little bit earlier. You said if you were giving the example of if we were married and you decided to cheat, and if that wasn't in our agreement, then you would gather karma, like negative karma. I've also heard a similar perspective, a little bit different, but quite similar. And that perspective was like karma is all about balance. So, like you
Mhm.
said, if you experience one thing to an extreme on the one end, you need to experience the extreme on the other end too, because that is all about balance. Like the entire
Yeah.
everything, creation needs to be in balance. Your experiences, everything boils down to balance, right? And so here's my question then. So if I did something negative to someone and it was not in our agreement to do so, I'm accumulating negative karma. But what if it was in the agreement to do so? How does that play out then? Will I still have a balancing out experience? Or will it kind of be like, well, you fulfilled your contract or you fulfilled your agreement, whatever we decided on before we came. So you're all good, you know?
So that's a tough question. And so I've kind of heard a couple different things. I've heard the perspective of like, yeah, like it's done and we're good. But then I think also forgiveness is really key here. So like, for example, like I think it really, to my understanding, only accumulates really negative karma as if, let's say, like let's make the roles reverse. So let's say you cheated, it wasn't part of our contract, and then I was really holding on to that and I like had a lot of pain and I was like angry and like, taking that out of like the soul experience and wasn't letting go of that. That's what I think creates that karma. But if instead we both forgive and you forgive yourself and I forgive you and we let that go because there's an understanding of like, oh, we're in life and like this is just like part of the experience, and that's fine, then I don't know that that necessarily does create that karma. So I think a lot of it also has to do with like the soul evolution. And so that's why Dolores Cannon was teaching a lot about ripping up contracts and letting go. and saying phrases like, we tried, we really tried, but it's not working. So you go your way with love and I'll go my way with love, so that the constant wheel doesn't keep on like turning and turning with that relationship. Because to your example, like if let's say I cheated first, then you cheat because it's part of our agreement, and then but then I'm still like upset about it and you're still upset about it, then we don't really like move on. And so that can kind of continue to trigger like this cycle.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because, from the human perspective, we don't always zoom out and go like, well, maybe this was just a contract and maybe you had to cheat because I need to learn stuff or whatever. Like, I don't see that being the norm in the conversation when someone cheats in a relationship. It's going to be like, you cheated on me, and it's going to be a painful experience. Maybe both ways, maybe only one way. But I like that explanation of like, and the idea of ripping up the contracts when you've tried, because I can imagine how some people can develop a fear-based belief system, thinking that there's just this hamster wheel of karma that you can never escape because of all the karma that you accumulate from lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And then there's so many um, moving parts, like let's say there is a cheating situation. It's not just those two people involved. There's a third party involved, and maybe that person's actions are involving other people too. So it's like a network of many people involved in one situation, and maybe everyone is like accumulating karma or something. It's not just as simple as you did something bad, now you've got karma and you're going to work it off, or you're going to, have a balancing experience or whatever. There's so many things involved. So I think the ripping of the contract thing, even if it's just like a symbolic thing, um, it's helpful to think of it that way. So that I'm imagining a desk, an afterlife desk, with paperwork up to the ceiling. It's like, I'm never gonna get through this, I need to get my shredder out to something.
Yeah, and so I do want to also clear something up. Like, so there is this huge fear about like being judged after, a incarnation on Earth. And I just want everyone to understand that there is no, man on a chair that's, judging everybody, that is representing as God, right? We are our own judges. So after we go to the resting place and we kind of like take a break and kind of refuel after, experiencing all the highs and lows of a lifetime on Earth, which is, a very emotional place to be in. Then we go and we do the life review, like with our council, and we basically get to experience all the things that we did in the other person's like perspective. So, like for example, again, if we use that infidelity example, where I cheated on you, now as I'm going through the life review process, I get to experience what you felt through that whole process. So I get to experience your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, like all of that. And I think because we are all love and we are, so loving and so connected, I think part of the karma is us basically like feeling what you felt, right? Like, if I was putting myself in your shoes now during the review process and feeling like, oh my gosh, like that was like, terrible and whatnot. And like, I want to do better and I didn't mean to cause that and so forth. So I think that's part of the process too. So just know that there's not anyone that's telling you you were bad or like you did a horrible life or, like it's us judging ourselves. And so that's really, really important for people to understand. And, that can be really hard. We can be our own worst critics, so we can be incredibly hard on ourselves.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I've also heard that perspective about the life review and where you experience your interactions with, I'm not sure if it's every single interaction, but I'm sure it's the most meaningful ones. You experience it from the other person's point of view. I wonder if that is equivalent to the balancing experience. You know what I mean? Like, do I actually have to go and incarnate some, like, have that incarnation experience or zoom into that, you know, and experience it in a physical form? Or can I just have that whole life review thing, have it through your experience, and then be like, oh my goodness, I shouldn't have done that. I'm so sorry for my actions and I wish I did better, that kind of thing. Learn from that versus actually go, or maybe. if you don't learn from that, maybe if you be like, huh, well, she deserved it, then, you know, I don't know. I'm speculating. I have no idea. I'll let you know when I die.
Yeah, I don't think any of us really have the full understanding, but I think both could be an option. So, like I believe that yes, like if the souls are willing to like let go, then it might just be like, oh, I kind of felt what she felt in her shoes, but I understand, that I'm still learning and growing, and this is part of the process. And, I know that you felt the same way, and so we decided to let it go and like move on, right? That might be part of things, but then I think in some instances, like the souls don't get to that point. And so then that's when like the karma, starts in that regard. So I think both could be an option.
This is fascinating. It's a fascinating topic. I mean, in general, karma, reincarnation, all of it, the connections, how it works, how it doesn't work, like all of it is so fascinating. And the best part for me is like we just all speculating. We can have all the information on earth and we'll still only know, I don't even think it's 1% of what the actual truth of the matter is in its biggest form. So it's fun for me. It's a fun thought experiment. I just, I always go back to like a lot of people say the same thing. So I know that the experiences are somewhat similar. And I know for a fact that I too will have a similar experience. Definitely not the same because it couldn't possibly be. I'm a different being. We all are. But it's interesting and it's fun to think about it in the sense of not so much of the doom and gloom stuff. We hear so much of the doom and gloom stuff, but we never fully feel kind of like curious about it or interested about it in a sense that I wonder, and more of the like a childlike nature thinking about it in terms of imagination and not so much, oh, I'm gonna die and I'm gonna be judged and oh, I gotta deal with this karma stuff. Like that feels heavy.
It does. It does. And then like in my book, I really talk about putting a spin on things. So like for example, one of the examples I give is a friend of mine whose husband like cheated on her. And like I don't see it as like, oh, he cheated like after 38 years of marriage. Like I see it as like, oh my gosh, like she's been kind of like hiding in the background, like like the part of something, part of a marriage, not really stepping into her own power and whatnot. And she was like taking on more of an assistant role at her job and was like working towards like getting out there and being more of like the business owner, sales like type person. And she finally did, and that's when he cheated. And I said, look, like he gave you a blessing. Like this is now a sign for you to like step in your own power, rediscover what you want, rediscover like what your dreams are, what you want in your life, like what you can accomplish and how great and amazing you are. And not only are you going through this rediscovery process of yourself and this whole soul journey, but you are now going to be an inspiration to others because of your story. And so that's what I think like the gift is. And so, still in that example, she's experiencing that infidelity. But do you see how there's like a totally different spin on things and a different perspective? So, like, I think that's so huge. And that's what I want to help humanity with is like, even if, let's say, the infidelity wasn't planned, right? It can still be a very beautiful thing.
I love that so much. And I love that you put a positive spin on it because I have the same belief as you do. I believe that every situation we are in can have a positive learning experience from it or a positive way to look at it and using it up in a positive way. Yes, I understand there are terrible things happening in the world and there are many people who are suffering because of it. And I'm not insensitive to that at all. But what I'm saying is, you we live for such a short amount of time. Even if you live for
Mhm.
100 years, 100 years in the spectrum of eternity is a blip. It's nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
So do you want to spend your time being miserable, being upset about things that you have no control over? Do you want to be a victim all your life? Or do you want to really take control over things and saying, you know what, this is my life and I want to empower myself and I want to feel Like I'm contributing positively towards the world and society, and I'm making the world a better place by me being the best version of myself that I can, and putting that energy into the world instead of the victim narrative, you know? And I
Yeah.
understand there are true, real victims out there. But what I'm noticing more and more is that even the people who've been through hell and back, they come back positive. They come back with that attitude of, I'm not a victim. Don't victimize me for my story. I'm using it as a stepping stool to empower others and helping others. And I love that that's something that's you planning on doing too, and that you are doing as well with all your work and all of that. It's wonderful. So I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. And
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
hopefully
It's
I'll
my
see you
honor.
at the group one as well, the group chat.
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, you have a fabulous day ahead, and I'll speak to you soon. I'll let you know when the video goes up. And I'll put the link to our book in the description. I'll put a link to Michelle where you can find her website and all that in the description as well. Find her, book with her, book a session with her, experience what do you call it? I forget the terminology now. Is it life between lives, or is it past life regressions?
So I do a few things. I do between life soul regression, which is really
Yes.
close to life between lives, and then I also do QHHT, which is quantum
Yes.
healing hypnosis technique. I do past lives as well, but you most often get a past life experience through the other two anyway. So,
Yes. Good. Okay, so I'll put a link to where people can find you and work with you in the description as well. And yeah, I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Have a wonderful day, Michelle.
okay, thank you, Amira.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.